Welcome to Key Conversations, where you get to connect with the best of the music business, unlocking the secrets to exploding your music career, presented by In the Key of Success. I'm your host, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. The conversations you're about to hear are between our special guest and participants of my MX4 course, the Marketing and Branding, Money-Making, Mentorship Mastermind for Musicians. They are singers, songwriters, composers, producers, and artists just like you, asking their burning questions of our experts while transforming their careers over 6 weeks. If you think this could be you, check out mx4course.com to schedule a free half-hour coaching call with me to see if we'd be a good fit. So, let's get started. Hi, everybody. We are here today with Hunter Scott, who runs LaFamos PR. That is spelled LaFamos. So go check them out. He is a publicist, a social media management firm. That's what LaFamos is in Hollywood, California. And Hunter is kind of a badass when it comes to his take and view on PR in this day and age of the digital music world. So I'm really excited to talk to him. He's got really interesting ideas that are new and refreshing to hear. So thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
I just want to kick it off before we get into everyone here from the MX4 course's questions. I want to kick it off and sort of hear what your journey was. What got you into PR, and were there any highlights that sort of got you from point A to where you are now?
A lot of them. I feel like every time I get asked this question, I probably answer in a little bit different way. But the easiest, simplest one that is the most kind of common denominator is essentially that I started as a musician, like a lot of people. I had a 6-string and 12-string in a suitcase when I came to this town. Well, I grew up a little bit, but when I came back, and it was more of a shit, what now kind of situation. So figuring out from there, everything when I went into kind of more behind the scenes and marketing aspect was to figure out what I needed, what I would have loved to have in that day that I landed here and kind of wanted to get my career going. So building upon that is everything I've been doing since in the last decade.
Awesome. I want one more intro question. What's your most favorite thing about what you do right now?
Creativity, I'm going to give you a lot of things. First, I think the creative aspect. So when I was a musician a long time ago, I got to work just on kind of my own thing, and that's nice. But now, having a full firm with 10 people on staff and working with 20 different clients, I get to be creative in 20 different ways. And that is the most wonderful thing. When I recall a time where I had to be on, playing my guitar 5-6 hours a day as my outlet, now I get to be creative on 20 different other campaigns, 16 hours a day or more. And that's just a kind of an incredible thing. The other is that it really keeps you on your toes, because we live in an age where people's attention spans are probably short of that of a goldfish. And at the same time, everything is really ever changing. So for those two reasons, you're always looking out to see what's new, what's different, how you really get to stand out, how you get to be different than everybody else. In the marketing world, we call that positioning. It's about how do you position yourself differently, not end cap positioning, which is referred to as like the store aspect, but more, as far as where your CD or your product is placed, but rather the how people view us. How are we going to be standing out in a world where there are gazillions of people doing the same thing, and you want to, stand out.
Yeah. That's awesome. We talk a lot about that. Like everything, it's not just about your colors and your logo anymore. It's about how you talk, how you share on social media. It's, it's the consistent alignment between all of the different elements of how you're putting yourself out there. And it seems more complicated, but at the same time, it's more completely you. But I could go down that road for a million hours.
Well, if I want to just say this, it used to be about the music, and now it's not. Now I like to say that music is nothing but the means of getting people to the brand, and the brand is you. The brand is the artist. People will like the music, but they will love you. People who can download or stream the song won't give you enough money to make a living doing music, but if they really love you, if they want to talk about you and tell their friends about you because they really love you, for you, they are the people that'll come out to your show and buy merchandise and tell their friends about you, spread word of mouth. Those are the really important things. You want to be those are the building blocks of getting to a point where you're making a living doing music as an active, obviously a little different if you're a composer or something like that, but as an active touring musician, that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that they're buying you there, and the music is access to you. That's a really cool perspective on that. Awesome. So I'm going to pass the torch and see if these guys on this call want to ask you any questions. I'll start with Gary. Do you have any questions for Hunter after doing all your research? Talking.
Hi, Hunter. Yes. Okay. So I am some kind of a fantastic musician that just walks into your office and says, "Hi, I'm here. What do I do?" Can you kind of like tell me who you are and what you do with me?
Yeah. So Gary, the first thing is it starts with a product. Everything always starts with a product, because I can be the most amazing marketer and publicist in the world, but if you don't have a product that is marketable, that people would want, it's going to stop there. So we always, before I even take that meeting, we have to look at the product and decide if it's something we can work with. For that reason, it's not about, how much money someone can pay, but rather, can we work with them first and foremost? So we look at the product, and then we see, is it something that's really good, that's really unique? Is it something that right now press is interested in? The second thing is figuring out what your goals are. So that's another question we usually ask prior to a meeting, because there are two aspects to it. The first is figuring out if your goals are aligned with something that we can help you with. So sometimes people come to me and they have amazing music, and I ask them what their goals are, and they say, "I really want to get into licensing." And I go, "Well, you don't want to be talking to a publicist." There are certain things, obviously, when you build your brand through PR, you can command more money later on, in terms of licensing fees. But if your main goal is just to get into, do one thing, then talk to the person doing that. That's the first. The other thing is making sure that that there's a market for your goals. So I'll give you an extreme example. I tell my students at the college, if someone comes to me and they are, I don't specialize in this, but let's say you do like acoustic accordion children's music, but you want to sell 1 million records. Even if you were to kind of capture the entire market, acoustic accordion children's music probably doesn't command 1 million records worth in terms of the market itself. So that's just an extreme example of making sure that there's demand for it, but it is a really important example in terms of just calculating, does that market exist for what you're trying to do? Because sometimes, and I've had people come to me, I'll give you a more realistic example, when a really good singer-songwriter came to me and said she really wanted to work in the college market. That's where she wanted to push her music. But the music didn't fit in the college market. There's room for it, but not in the college market. So that's where, and by the way, we didn't end up taking that project for that reason, that she just didn't understand that her music doesn't fit in that aspect. So those are the first things. Now, does that answer that? Do you want me to keep going? Because there's a lot of different things.
I think
keep going. If you can.
You can keep going as long as you want. No one's going to cut you off.
Oh, God. All right. So once we have those two things in place, as far as knowing that you're looking at, we have the product and the goals are in place, then let's look at what you need to do. What are your release schedule? That would be the next thing. Press is news. News comes from the word new. Oftentimes we have to remind people about that. So I want to know what you have coming up. I want to know when you're going to release it. And I want to know that you have enough content to kind of go for a while. Because as we were talking initially, in this interview, we're talking about how people's attention spans are really short. So you want to be able to find that nice relationship with press where you're not releasing something every day per se, but you're also not releasing something like you're not releasing a single every 6 months, because that's way too long. So understanding the shelf life of a product is really important. A single will probably last you 2, sometimes 3 months, but not more than that. An EP or an album will last you about 6 months. For that reason, for example, if you come to me with a 12-track album and you say that's all I'm going to have for the next year or two, we'll say, okay, let's break that up into 2 EPs and do a single or 2 before we release each EP. And all of a sudden you have enough material for a couple of years. The other aspect is touring. So knowing if you're an active musician, if you're going to be playing shows, that's a really important aspect, because press could only do so much without you actually going out there and shaking hands and kissing babies. I like to say politicians can do it, and so can you. It's a really, really important thing for people to connect on a personal level. Also, the majority of your money will come from touring and merchandising sold, at shows. So to get you to a point where you're making a living doing music as a touring musician, you have to be playing those shows and you want to be building that. And the other aspect of that is that it just gives us more work, which is good because our job is to also get you in event calendars and to do all the tour press in terms of getting someone from a local magazine, newspaper to review your show and all those things. So the music side, as far as getting it reviewed, then you have the local side as far as getting your people out to a show to review your show and doing event calendars and if it's local radio stations to do on-air performances and those kinds of things. And the third aspect, which is lifestyle marketing, which we can talk about a little bit later as well.
Awesome. That was super laser too. Nice job. Good question, Gary. That was a good one to start with. So let's go to Danny. Danny, do you have a question for Hunter yet?
Yeah. I do actually. My question is, when you're like deciding if you're going to work with a new group or artist, is it more important to you that they have awesome music and your job is to help them like come up with their story? Or that they already kind of have a cool story that you can sort of like expand and grow with. Basically my question is, if there's a band that has like awesome music that you're like, this can sell, but they're the most boring, like no story at all people, I think I can develop that. Or is it more like, their music isn't important enough. Like I'd rather have somebody that, has 3 arms and plays a ukulele with their feet or something, because that's a cool story.
No, I need to have the music. Because I'm not a producer, some people come to me and it sounds like they have potential, but maybe the music isn't there, but I can really hear the potential. They'll say, well, if you're interested in working with a producer, I can recommend maybe a couple, or you could just go find one, but I don't get involved in that aspect. So for me, I have to have that product, but I can certainly help develop a story. Some people are really interesting without realizing that they're interesting. So for that, we built something at the company that we called the La Famas Welcome Survey. And we start working with a client. We help them fill out that survey. It's several pages. It's not too long. It takes a couple hours to fill out. But it asks you those leading questions that we as publicists know to ask. So I'll ask for your hobbies. I'll ask for nonprofit affiliation potentials. I want to know more about you, how long you've been playing, what motivates you. Through that, I'll give you an example. I spoke out recently. We had a client that through the welcome survey we discovered was diabetic, and all of a sudden we're not just pitching her to music publications for being a singer-songwriter, but also to diabetes magazines and blogs. And that's the job of the publicist to figure that out, find those people, reach out to the editor and say, hey, let's do a story about how musicians maintain the insulin levels before a show. And then the editor goes, oh, that's really interesting. That's, we haven't done that before. Now, instead of just taking music and blasting on press release, which I understand you guys saw that the article, I said, fuck press releases, which you don't want to be doing because that's not personalized. It's not really going to get you that. It's not the pitch, you want to be pitching the story, not pitching just blasting out the music to, 100 people or 1,000 people who are not necessarily going to listen to it because you're just blasting them something. So being really laser focused in that respect and sending them those personalized pitches and explaining why you think they should be writing about you is really important, and finding that story is part of it. So for me, when someone comes, we split the campaign into 3. So I started talking about it with Gary's question as well, which is music, lifestyle, and local. So we discussed music and local, and this is where lifestyle comes in. Lifestyle is your story. What makes you interesting beyond the music? And framing that is important, but then I guess to answer your question, it can be developed. We just don't want to fake it. We want to find it. We know that you have passions for certain things. You may not. So I had a client that wanted to, he was funneling money from his, using money from his music career to fund a nonprofit to help the homeless population. And so one of the things from there, that's something he was already doing that's really great. But if you came to me and said, hey, I have a passion for like helping homeless people, I haven't done anything yet or anything like that, that's when you can take that and develop it. But there are always things that we believe in. If someone comes and says, I just want to play music, I love nothing but music, and it just kind of hits a wall, then it hits a wall. But we certainly try to develop the things that come from that. But I'm just going to say it again. Don't fake it. Don't milli vanilli your way into something that's going to bite you in the ass later on.
Milli Vanilli. Oh my gosh. A very long time ago, I worked with a PR company and they latched onto the fact that I had all these odd jobs. Like I was a bouncer and I was a scuba diver for the government for a while. And I was like, they were so hung up on it. I was like, can we talk about my music now? But they're like, this is amazing. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
You have to balance it.
Yeah. It sounds like there needs to be a balance. Good question, Danny. Paul, do you have a question for Hunter?
Yes. So you've been talking about individual artists, but do you do the same kind of thing for a group? And if you do, does anything differ? Other than that, there's more people.
Well, it's a different dynamic with a group. Obviously, yeah, we don't just work with independent artists. It's also with bands. It's also with signed artists who have a lot of stuff going on. But with bands, all it is in terms of like our welcome survey is that we duplicate the first aspect of the personal questions and tell each member to fill out individually, and the rest can be filled out as a band. Because sometimes you'll find out things that are interesting about the drummer that you may not, be knowing, that you may not be focusing on other things. Oftentimes, it's the front man or the front woman that you want to be, you're going to be focusing on. But a lot of times there are really interesting people with interesting stories that go beyond it. For example, right now we're doing a campaign for a really, really awesome rock band called the Howling Souls, and their drummer. So I mentioned this because the example of the drummer we were just talking about was in the movie Whiplash. So he was that. He was also the actual coach for the actor that was playing. So there's all these things that make it interesting beyond that. You can now talking about that and kind of having that connect. So maybe you haven't heard of the band, but the fact that the drummer is this amazing drummer who was in a big movie that was nominated for an Academy Award. He also acted in the movie. That was really cool. So all those things kind of help bring and lure people in. It gives you that aspect of, hey, something's going on there. So that's, again, another differentiating factor with another band that you may have never heard of and hasn't been doing anything. So it's about, again, that positioning aspect. And besides that, yes, the dynamic is a little bit different because you're dealing with a band, and bands oftentimes have, I guess just a different dynamic because of the way that they operate. It's not just one mind calling the shots. It's a lot of different people doing things together. Bands a lot of times can make interviews really, really, really interesting because they're funny and they're, together, or it can make it really disaster because they don't know who's supposed to be talking when. And so it really goes both ways. So when we're talking with a band and we have like a radio interview set up, one of the things that we'll discuss is, okay, who's going to be talking, and reminding them that they have to, as if it's an interview where they're going to be quoted in. So, and it's not a video, so they have to remind the interviewer who's speaking every time, so they know who to quote. There's all these little things in it, but generally speaking, it's about it just gives you more to work with.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. That was specific. I like that.
Next week, we'll be back with Hunter, so don't worry, this interview is not over. Stay tuned. Please don't forget to rate and comment on iTunes and Stitcher Radio if you like this podcast. It's the best way to keep it going, get more subscribers, and continue to share this awesome information with the indie music community. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. All of the music on this podcast was provided by yours truly. The theme song is called Inevitably, and it was written with Cameron Ernst and produced by Joey Auck. If you're interested to find out more about my own composing and songwriting projects, go to cbemusic.com. If you're a musician looking to really get some results that you're psyched about in your music career, then head to inthekeyofsuccess.com, where I've created a bunch of different kinds of resources just for you. Key Conversations is sponsored in part by Bandzoogle. They make it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Their step-by-step system gets you online in minutes, and you can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and customize them with their easy point-and-click editor. All the features you could possibly imagine for a professional website are built in. So, because you are a Key Conversations podcast listener, you get a special 3-month free trial just for you. Go to www.inthekeyofsuccess.com inthekeyofsuccess.com/resources and click on the Bandzoogle logo to access your free extended trial.